Okay, this is Dr. Randy Hurst, psychologist, focusing on kind of community education at this point in my life and career, rather than direct practice. Retiring from that, let's say. This particular video is on what I refer to as the racquetball metaphor, so you will have maybe heard reference to this in some others. The reason I chose this, I've been using it now for 20-some years. And it comes from, well, one, being completely non-athletic in my background, but also when I was in my doctoral program in the early 90s, I had a neighbor lady who was, 7, 8, 9 years older than me, who asked if I wanted to learn to play racquetball after learning that I'd never played it before. Well, she was looking for somebody she could beat, and I was a good target that way. And I was looking for some breaks from reading and studying and writing for school. So it worked out really well. And it wasn't then that I developed this idea as a metaphor, but it came from that. Because as I would see people who had developed problem patterns in their lives, anxiety issues, just trying to learn how to change their lives from a pattern that they had used for many, whether it was addictions or anxiety, depression, focus on loss, whatever it might be. The pattern that had kind of taken over their lives had become very automatic. I found from learning to play racquetball something that just made so much sense to me. And what it is I was terrible. So what I would do is I would watch people play. I'd go a little early before meeting her and watch them. And what I learned is that knowing what to do, understanding the why and understanding what somebody was doing didn't help me. It didn't help me much at all in playing myself. And okay, I'd worked in the alcohol and drug field forever, well, what felt like forever, and in helping people change their lives and lifestyles, their patterns of behavior. One of the things we talked about is how, especially people who had been long-term users, they didn't know how to live a normal life. It didn't feel right. It felt awkward. And just learning what to do didn't help. But what they learned in support groups, 12-step, AA, NA, that sort of thing, was that it's about the doing. It's not about the knowing. And I learned this then playing racquetball, because I knew a lot of things, but I didn't know anything about racquetball, and the knowing didn't help. It hadn't helped me years before learning to play tennis. I watched sometimes hours watching people. Didn't help me. It was always the doing. And this ties into something that, if you haven't seen it yet, or if I haven't done it yet, it's about the way the brain works. The brain works in forms of forming circuits. The circuits come from doing, way more than knowing. There are some knowledge circuits that help, but really the thing that comes from that becomes familiar, that becomes our pattern, is by what we do. And so we go down and practice, and I would practice the same. I know, okay, here's what I want to do, or I'd notice something in playing. If you've ever played racquetball, one of the weirdnesses is that if you hit the ball to the front wall, it goes off and hits the side wall. When you hit it, the ball, if you hit it normally, like you would normally hit it, the ball dives straight down into the ground. So you have to, if it comes straight back to you, you can hit it normal. But if it hits the sidewall first, you have to change the angle of your racket face to make it seem like you're going to hit it up in the air, but actually it makes it go level because the normal is to shoot down to the ground. Well, okay, you can know that, but can you do that? And so I had to learn by hitting the ball to the side, or to the front, to where it would hit the sidewall, and then remember and practice hitting it with the face, what they call open face more, and hit it to where it went to where I wanted it to go. And I had to do this very mechanically because it didn't feel normal. It didn't feel like the normal way of hitting, and I was just learning this part of it. But in tennis, you don't have this. There's no sidewall. And I had learned to play tennis a bit. And so I had to now reorient my brain to this thing. And there was a variety of skills that I learned where watching better players, I go, I want to do what they're doing, but I learned that I had to go down and practice. Okay, so I practice in a fake setting, so to speak. I practiced it in my head, I practiced it in the court. As soon as I got into the game, I'd forget everything. In real life, forget it. Well, if I got really upset with myself, if I got really angry and frustrated, it would be easy to give up. Screw it. I'm not even going to try anymore. And just stay in my old pattern. And I used to see racquetball players do this all the time. It's a very easy thing to do, is just to stop trying this new stuff because it doesn't feel right. It feels awkward. I got to remember to do it. Is it worth it? And I found that it really was worth it to mechanically remember and keep trying and know that I was going to make mistakes. And here's what I learned. 30 days later sometimes I would do it right. Oh, notice it. Excellent. But then the next time I'd blow it. And let go of the times you blow it. Focus on the times that you're doing right. Imagine it in your head. Keep practicing. Know it's mechanical. And 30, 40 days later, many losses. Because in learning a new skill, I would lose every game practically. Because I'm focusing on this new thing, it would screw all my other skills up. But 30 days later, 6 weeks maybe, I would find I was doing it, and I wasn't having to think about it. My brain was recognizing and was doing it. It was flowing right. And in describing this to people about other things than a simple skill like, I don't know what's simple, but a skill, a physical skill, is help them focus on what they want to do more of, kind of break it down, know that it's not going to feel right, and you're not going to remember always, and it'll feel awkward, but just keep practicing, keep doing the new thing. Remind yourself, forgive yourself if you fall back into old patterns. Know that it's the brain pattern, it's the old flow. It's the old flow that feels normal. And remind yourself, okay, I'm trying to do this new thing. Right? To do the new thing is what's going to give me the new flow, the new feeling right. And it's like coaching an athlete. Of course, racquetball is an athletic thing. But coaches, this is what they do. They have the person repeat over and over and over and over. We as psychologists don't always help people understand that that's part of the job, is you do the new thing over and over. And I focus, I can't say about other psychologists, but I can say about many clients, is that when they have a problem pattern, they'll try to stop doing the bad things. And I try to go, wait a minute. Figure out what you're trying to do more of that's different than the thing that you were doing before. And focus on doing the more of. teach your brain to learn the new pattern by doing and the more of. And that's what's going to help you do better. Because if you stop doing, it doesn't last. When you're stressed, when you're tired, when you're frustrated, it's really easy for the old pattern to jump right back out at you. In the fancier terms, so to speak, of learning theory, they call this spontaneous recovery. Spontaneous recovery of a problem behavior. And it happens. But if you're focusing more on what you're trying to do more of, you're really building in a new pattern that can take over. If you're just stopping an old pattern, you haven't done anything to replace with something new. And so really step back and go, well, if I was not doing that, well, what would I be doing instead? And that's a whole lot better place to be, is to work on this, what you're becoming more of. That helps you feel better about yourself when you can look back at the day and go, I did pretty well. Or I could have done better. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And, so that kind of goes into the corralling or kind of the inventory or the review of the day. Is there stuff I can't do anything about? Okay, let that go. What could I do better? Okay, well, what do I do tomorrow? What do I want to do more of? That's what's going to help. Hope this helps. Hope this makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't, and I'll look for some of these other videos, especially on the taming, the problems. If you've got the problems, you probably know a lot about the problems, but I will cover more about what kinds of problems and the why. What goes on that sets us up to have the problems but be maintained and get worse. And I want to focus more on the taming, the what to do that makes it better in the long term. And then just remember, it never happens as quickly as we want it. And it doesn't happen just by awareness. It happens by doing and essentially rewiring the patterns in the brain. And we can't just do that by thinking it through. You might help by imaging it, by imagining the new thing. But what's really going to do it is to a step farther and do the new stuff. That's what's going to help. Just be patient, because it never happens as fast as we want. Okay. Thank you for viewing, and hope this helps, and come back and see if there's others that can help as well.